Yes. Okay, great. We're present here this evening for our class, the body of Adam, the secret of Noachides and the end times, and we have some live students here. Not that you other folks aren't alive as well. And so we've got a room here full of six students, regular members of our Tuesday night class. It's gone through an evolution of different names as to what to call it, which is all part of the struggle, the adventure rather, the engaging adventure for Gentiles in general to understand what is this whole phenomenon of B'nai Noach, of Noachides. Especially for some of us who do not like to be pigeonholed and do not like to be classified. And that's a normal reaction. And so in some sense, I mean, the same thing applies to Jews. Many Jews don't like to be pigeonholed. Where do they fit in the spectrum of Jewish consciousness, of Jewish observance? And this has been going on historically, and certainly in our generation, it's generated whole new terms and definitions. From Orthodox, then to the Reform movement that began some 200 years ago in Germany, and then that migrated over to America, and then 150 years ago, the conservative movement evolved, and then you've got something called conservadox, which is in between conservative and Orthodox, and then you've got the Reconstructionists, and then you've got New Age Judaism with the Jewish Renewal movement, and now you've got something going around that's actually called, believe it or not, flexodoxy. Okay, now I have to remind myself, and you folks bear with me, I'm still a novice at using this virtual classroom. Let's see. Ray, what does it mean when someone's got an R next to their name? A yellow R, I forgot. And, oh, that tells me that they're recording it. Okay. All right, well, we're recording it also. And we're going to compare our recording to your recording. Okay, and now tell me again, when someone's got an AB lighting up, that means what? An AB in green? Oh, they're typing. Okay, then I should expect for later study if we get confused. Oh, you mean you're writing down a question that you may or may not present to me? Is that what that means? Yes. Okay. I see. Well, listen, I am prepared to experiment a little further. For you folks that do have microphones, we can try letting you know the recording. Oh, you can't do microphone recording at the same time? Is that correct? Well, yes, you can. Okay, you can. Anyway, if someone does want to speak and ask a question, then you go ahead and indicate, and I'll try to figure that out, how to do that. And do feel free, once again, to ask your questions, write your questions to me at any time. All right. So we were speaking about categorizing ourselves. Actually, I have a denomination of Judaism that I've been a title I've been toying with half humorously, instead of flexodoxy, which you can imagine what that means. It means anything you want it to mean. Bend a little this way, a little that way. I don't like this part, so we'll remove that. Oh, this looks appetizing. Oh, this is in fashion. This is in vogue. Let's do that now. How about metadoxy? Ooh, I'm a metadox Jew. Metadoxy, meta meaning like a meta system. It's something that's all-encompassing. It includes all the systems.
What about hyperdoxy?
Okay, Allison suggested hyperdoxy, and I hope she's joking. In any event, metadoxy is that the idea is that it's all Torah-based, Orthodox-based, and we have compassion and we listen to, we entertain all critiques and questions, and but we turn critiques and criticisms into a kasha. A kasha is a Talmudic term. It means a difficulty. In Hebrew, modern Hebrew, the word kasha something means something that's difficult or hard, and a kasha refers to a difficulty, a type of question. But in Talmudic methodology, it's very distinct from a she'elah. A she'elah is a question. The response to a she'elah, a question, in rabbinic thinking, in Talmudic methodology, is a teshuvah, is an answer. There's a question, which means I'm lacking information. I just need to know some information. What's the weather outside? So I walk outside, I take my thermometer, I measure it, I have my answer. Okay? A kasha is something different. And kasha would be like if I just came in from outside, and now I asked you, what's the temperature outside? Obviously, there's something else that I am looking for. So a kasha implies that we have information and we're exploring something beneath the surface. The response to a kasha, a difficulty, is called a teirutz in Talmudic methodology. Now, you won't come across this term. Yes, it exists in modern Hebrew, but you won't come across it in this context of kasha and teirutz, kasha and a teretz, except one who's engaged in rabbinical methodology. But this is important for us because the approach in my learning, how I teach, as we mentioned last time, it's not so much what you're looking at, but where you're looking from. There is no Torah learning without a methodology, meaning whenever you're learning, you cannot learn content without learning context. If we learn Torah simply as a matter of gathering information, and we're using our old mindset, aka a Western mindset, a Greek mindset, which has always been in opposition to that of a true Torah mindset. The Yiddish term, there's a Yiddish term for this, and I believe that some of the B'nai Noach can appreciate this. It's the difference between what's called a Yiddish cup. Cup from the Yiddish, from the German, just means a head. A Yiddish cup, the word Yiddish means Jewish. Of course, Yiddish has many different meanings and depends who's using it in what context, but from a Talmudic perspective, from a perspective of Jewish consciousness, a Yiddish cup is how the Jewish mind looks at reality, as opposed to a Goyish cup. Verstehst? A Goyish cup is, from a Jewish perspective, is a clearly non-Jewish way of looking at life and reality. And this penetrates all the way into the realm of creativity as well. And in our relationship to God, our very concept of God. Abraham is trying to explain there's nothing here but God, Ein Od Milvado, and they couldn't get it. The people around him. And he goes, Gewalt, they got a Goyish cup. And part of, it's my understanding, the B'nai Noach, to become part of the extended family, as it were, of Am Yisrael, to hold on to become a part of the body of Adam, to truly fall in love with the Torah. Even here, a Gentile must learn to distinguish between a Goyish cup and a Yiddish cup. Because if not, then we will end up simply having Bible stories and philosophy, Jewish philosophy, and Judeo-Christian ethics, which is all well and good. But the purpose of this course, the way that I teach, is very demanding and very challenging, because I am teaching not just the content of the Torah for the benefit, in this case, of righteous Gentiles. I am also an instructor, and my purpose here is to instruct and to train our minds how to literally, even though we're not Jewish, but how to think like a Jew. Even though we are not a Kabbalist, far from it, far from being a Talmudist, but we can begin to learn to appreciate and glimpse what it's like to look from the perspective of a Kabbalist, from the perspective of a Talmudist, from the perspective of the indigenous Jewish consciousness in mind, which is something that is eternal, and it travels through space and time, and it can never be destroyed, because from a deeper perspective, the root of Jewish genius, of Jewish creativity, of Jewish survival is nothing less than the mind of God itself. And when one learns Torah, when one attaches oneself to the Torah through the proper methodology, then one becomes, as it were, literally the synapses in the mind of God. In mysticism and theology, there's a term for this. It's called the Godhead. It can also mean different things in different contexts. Of course, all these are English terms. And we gain when we use them, because we can communicate with each other. But there's also a loss because of the connotations and association all these theological, religious, and mystical terms have. So, the point we just hypertext. There we go again. Homepage. We were talking about that. Just as many Jews have difficulty, it's a struggle with how to identify themselves. And even within the religious group, even within Orthodox Judaism. Likewise, B'nai Noach can also have this dilemma. It's valid. It's a challenge that we all have, respectively, of what are we going to call ourselves? Maybe nothing. But then you have a problem. When they come knocking on your door and they're taking the census, and they say, well, what religion are you? I don't have a name. Are you part of any, do you identify with any religious group? Yes, but I'd rather not say.
Formerly known as.
Formerly known as. Well, can you give me a clue? Yes. It has something to do with Noah. Noah? You mean Noah and the ark? Yes. But not your Noah and your ark. Don't you dare try to fit me into your old-fashioned religion. My Noah is a different Noah. And you know what? He certainly is. Noah is never going to be the same. And that's part of what you have to turn around. For better or for worse, the name Noachide is what identifies this whole movement, this whole pulsation, this wave within the body of Adam. And as we mentioned last week, it's a well-known kasha, okay? It's a kasha that the sages deal with, if not directly, explicitly in the Talmud itself, but the commentators do, and they ask the question, not only why are there 7 laws associated with Noachides, we can show you really there should be 8, there should be 9, there should be 6. And all these are kashas, because we ask the question, the sages ask these questions because they're opening up what's hidden beneath the surface. But the other question is, why are they these laws and everything that's associated with them? And of course, you know that there's much more than 7. That's just the name of the game, is all it is. It's the name of the heading. But the next question is, why are they associated with Noah? They were given to Adam. These are Adamic laws. We should be called B'nai Adam. And in fact, the term that I have been using for several years now is the nation of Adam, to refer to both Jews and righteous non-Jews. Within that context, this is what I began explaining last time. There are 3 great mysteries to creation. And truly, if you really, really know the resolution to one, you'll know it to the other 2, because they're inseparable. And what I'm saying is it's all based upon Chazal. Chazal being Hachomenu Zichronam Livracha. It's an acronym that refers to, it means our sages, their memory for a blessing. It's called Chazal, Chet Zayin Lamed. It's an abbreviation. It doesn't mean anything in of itself. It's an acronym. Chazal. When we refer to a Chazal or the Chazal, we are usually referring to a statement, a midrashic or agadic statement, or halakhic concept of the sages from the period of the Talmud, of the Mishnah and the Gemara. And the Chazal Yes. Yes, the three mysteries. The three mysteries are, you remember them from last week? Who and what are the Jews? Okay, and who asked this 100 years ago? Mark Twain. How can they be eternal? They appear to be eternal. How can this be? Who can explain the mystery? That goes hand in hand with, it's almost as if it were the inverse. The backside of that mystery is the phenomenon of anti-Semitism. Nobody can explain anti-Semitism. There have been thousands of books written about it by Jews and non-Jews. The only answer is you will find in the inner teachings of the Torah. And that's because it is not a natural phenomenon. If it was a natural phenomenon, we can find natural reasons for it. Scapegoat, minority, difference, jealousy, all these sociological, anthropological, cultural explanations, they never hold up. It's like a mathematical formula, and you find one exception, you got to throw the whole thing out. Because the answer to anti-Semitism, to Jew hatred, is not a natural phenomenon. It's a supranatural phenomenon. There are spiritual roots to anti-Semitism. And just like there's a supernatural phenomena force at the root of the existence and mission and purpose of the nation of Israel, likewise is there a spiritual root at the basis of the inexplicable phenomenon of Jew hatred that has never, ever ceased, not one single day on this planet. And the third question, the third part of the mystery is, who are the Noahites? Where'd they come from? And why are they taking central stage now, after lying dormant for almost 2,000 years, and truly from the time of the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai? The first Ben Noach apparently was actually Moshe's father-in-law, Jethro. Now I know some of you know him as a convert to Judaism, but we will study the phenomenon of Jethro perhaps at another time. I've written an essay about the mysterious personality character of Jethro. It's not so simple to say that he was a full-fledged convert. It appears more he fitted into the category of the first Ben Noach. In any event, these three questions, these difficulties, these kashas, is really what this course is about. Because to explore one, it's like you tunnel through one deep enough, you'll come out the end of the other, and vice versa. We are at the scene. This is how I present. This is how we open up. Imagine we are at the scene of a cosmic crime, a great disaster, a catastrophe that's beyond comprehension. Something has exploded, something has collapsed. There's been great, unbelievable damage all around us. And we are the sleuths, we are the detectives at the scene of this cosmic crime. What's the crime we're talking about? The fall of Adam. It's a crime. It's a sin. The chet of Adam HaRishon, the chet of the eating from the fruit of the Eitz HaDa'at Tov V'Ra. And there's like, we're at the scene and we're trying to figure out what the heck happened here. And what did this whole reality look like before the crime? You see? Isn't that what the detective attempts to do? To reconstruct what took place here before the very moment of the crime. Because we can't understand the crime and who done it until we understand who was here. Who was here? And what was their relationship? And what were they doing that caused this to happen? And so, we are detectives at the scene of this cosmic crime. And it's very difficult to say the least, because it's one thing if this crime took place in our world, in our dimension. The problem is, the whole scenario took place in a higher dimension, and the fact that we're in this dimension here, this is the crime. This is the fall. We are the broken pieces. We are what we're looking at, trying to figure out how did this get here, and who done it. When you wake up in the morning, the first thing you've got to say to yourself, who done it? How did I get this way? How did I get into this form? Wait a second. I'm a Homo sapien. I thought God created me, Adam, as a Homo spiritus. Hear that word? Homo spiritus. I saw that somewhere, and for lack of a better word in English, if you got a better one, I'd be pleased to hear it. The problem is when we refer to Adam HaRishon, because of all of our Christian, Judeo-Christian upbringing, Western culture, and all the arts, and just the limitations of our own mind, we think of Adam, we cannot but think of Adam as, hey, just another one of the guys. Yeah, he was smarter and he was purer, but surely he was not what we now know as a Homo sapien. And so another term, if only to get us to begin trying to think about Adam differently, the term Homo spiritus is a good one, because it stops you kind of dead in your tracks. Okay, I get the Homo part, the human part. What's the spiritus? I mean, spirit is a spiritual human. And so we're trying to reconstruct and figure out who and what we are. Now, the premise that I think I mentioned this to you last time also. The premise that I am building on. Remember I talked to you about a Torah koan last time, yes? K-O-A-N, type of mind puzzle. This is what a real kasha is, a juicy kasha, a real difficulty that keeps you bounce off of it continually. Remember, we're not looking for answers. We're looking for resolutions. And a resolution is a play on the word. It has two meanings. One meaning is an answer, but the other meaning is you increase the resolution. Always, always. And the premise here is that the Kabbalah teaches, the Torah teaches, that whatever exists now will exist in the future. Vice versa. Whatever will exist in the future. The Gaon of Vilna says this, that whatever will exist in the future on a microcosmic level or a fractal level, a fractal fraction of that higher truth, exists now in the world. And by the same token, whatever will exist in the future, meaning the higher dimension, the true messianic era of Ben David and Olam Haba, the world to come, this is, in an important way, is simply taking us back to the original Garden of Eden, from whence Adam and his consciousness and his reality collapsed. So this means whatever exists will exist in the future existed in the Garden of Eden. And there are fractals of it, fractured pieces of it here now. This means that the phenomenon of B'nai Noach, whatever it is, not only exists in the future, and we know that from all the words of the prophets. And the one of the verses that we will, as I mentioned in my synopsis of the class on the website, one of the key verses that we're going to be exploring, and that is the verse from Isaiah Yeshayahu 60, chapter 60. V'halhu goyim le'oreich u'malachim le'noga zarcheich. That the goyim, the nations, which nations? The 70 nations, aka the essence of the seven, will walk in your light, and kings in the radiant splendor of your aura. There's different ways to interpret those terms. The question that we left you, one of the questions we asked, the rhetorical question, the Torah koan, is, and this is what B'nai Noach, who want to go deeper, have to constantly be asking themselves, where was I in the Garden of Eden? And it's build up the kasha. Building up the kasha means we're going to make it appear to be a little more difficult, but that's exactly what we want to do, because that's how you narrow in on it. Who was in the Garden of Eden? There was Adam, there was Chava, and there was the Nachash. Okay?
There was a tree.
And there was a tree. That is correct.
And in the garden, a tree was a pretty big thing. I mean, it wasn't just a tree.
And, for the record, how many trees were there? Main trees? There was two special trees. And they were the Eitz HaChayim, the tree of life, and the Eitz HaDa'at, the tree of knowledge. And we know that the Kabbalah tells us very emphatically, the Kabbalists teach, they are in fact one tree. The root is the tree of life. The branching is the tree of knowledge.
So where were the Jews?
Very good question. And the same question a Jew has to ask. Well, where was I in the Garden of Eden? Who were the Jews in the Garden of Eden? Now let's flesh it out. No pun intended. As we're going to see,
Okay.
this is the key to the whole thing.
Chava was a Jew. She was mother.
Yeah.
Adam wasn't Jewish. He didn't have a mother. He couldn't have been a Jew.
Well.
Okay, so we're Adam.
We're Adam.
Okay. Adam actually had a mother and a father.
Oh no.
Yeah. Because Adam.
I'm going to talk to Father Murphy about this.
Yeah. We got a backsliding Catholic here.
I resemble that remark.
You resemble that remark? Yes, exactly the point I was making. First of all, we understand, even though we use these terms, the Ramchal teaches, for example, that even though the Torah says there was a tree and there was the act of eating, and there was a man and there was a woman, and it's literally true, but the eating was not like our eating, the fruit was not like our fruit, and the tree was not like our trees. These are higher dimensional. It was a four-dimensional tree, four-dimensional fruit, four-dimensional eating, four-dimensional thoughts, four-dimensional speech.
Four-dimensional sin.
Beautiful. Four-dimensional sin. Now we see why we got a problem trying to figure this out. And that's a good way of putting it. It was. It was not a simple sin at all. It was a four-dimensional, and truly we know even the word sin. It was not a sin. The word chet in Hebrew, as everyone knows, means miscalculation. Truly, there's no word in English for the word chet, because to call it a sin is total overkill. If only for the fact of what Christianity has done to that word. It's contaminated. And a miscalculation is a little bit of an understatement. It is a catastrophic miscalculation of proportions that we're just still we're like waking up from the nuclear explosion, just coming to grips with what even happened. But we'll just try to call it the chet. I assume everybody knows what that is now referring to, the chet of Adam. And so in this higher dimensional, and this is something that we will take a look at, a higher dimensionality. These are not just words, it's not abstract ideas, it's not a philosophy, it's not simply metaphors. We can actually begin to think and perceive and glimpse in four-dimensional reality. Okay? This is part of what the modern sciences and non-Euclidean geometries have brought to the world in the last 150 years. And it is possible to begin to think. This is part of what it means to think like a Jew, think like a rabbi, think like a Kabbalist, utilizing four-dimensional or perpendicular thinking. And this is the question. If there was only Adam, and really Adam refers to both Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava, and the Nachash, okay? So now, where are the Jews? Where are the B'nai Noach? And where are the 70 nations of the world? And in this sense, when we make the distinction, let's make this very clear. When we make a distinction between B'nai Noach and the 70 nations that we're referring to is the klipa. It's the shell. It is the evil, contaminated part of the soul of the 7 of the Noachites. And that klipa is what ultimately, it's been manifesting all throughout history. It reaches its climax in what's known as the Wars of Gog and Magog. What is the gematria of Gog and Magog?
70.
Took about 2 years with a lot of repetition. Okay, it's important. Some people have an affinity for numbers, other people don't. Some people get turned on by gematria, numerical equations. Other people are turned off by it. Some people feel a disdain for it. Some people feel like it's just like numerology. You might as well just look at your horoscope in the daily newspaper. It's important to understand what gematria is. Gematria comes from the ancient Greek word in which we get the modern word geometry. Gematria is what you'll see translated as numerology. It's not. It's something much more. And it really is more about geometry. And what it is, it's a fractal equation that's being drawn from one word, one concept, to another word concept, that the sages are showing that both of these concepts or words are fractals of the same formula. In other words, they are both emanating from the same essence. But if one doesn't understand the essence, the concept behind the numerical value, then it just looks like you're saying numerical value, this is equal to this, and oh, I can do that too. That's right, and this devil can quote the scripture, and the devil can quote numerical values to prove all kinds of things. Yes, a question.
Maybe there was no distinction between the Jews and the anti-Semitism and the Noahites and the 70 nations before the fall.
Okay. Everybody hear that? Allison asked the question. Perhaps before the fall there was no distinction between Adam, Noahites, and the klippah of the 70 nations.
And the Jews.
And the Jews. There was no difference.
And the anti-Semitism.
And the anti-Semitism. There was no distinction, Allison is suggesting. And our response to that is, before we even look at the content of it, step back contextually in terms of methodology. Let's look at beneath the premises, look at the axioms. And the axiom here is that whatever exists now will exist in the future, and whatever exists in the future existed in Adamic space-time as well. Because reality is so unified, anything that's happening now is part of something that was happening before, only it's now been magnified, it's mutated, it has been stretched, it has been concealed, covered up, but it has to be here because the principle is there's only one body. This is an extension. When we say that we believe in God and God is one, this is not simple Judeo-Christian monotheism. That's true. For a child has to understand first there's one God out there and not many gods. But as well known in the Hasidic teachings of 200 years ago and thereafter, they emphasize that the concept of believing God as one goes far beyond the simple idea that God is one God. Rather, there's Ein Od Milvado. There's nothing here but God, which means, well, what is all this stuff? This is all part of God's own seamless unity. It runs out of parts. But the parts are all part of its own self. Now, this is something that can truly only be appreciated to the extent that one gets a grasp of fractal geometry. This is a crucial model to use. I cannot overemphasize, and any of you listeners that are new, eventually will have to take a look at this. I give whole courses on this, on fractal reality. And because this is the language of the Torah. This is the language the sages and the Kabbalists have been using for thousands of years. The fractal in Hebrew is a nitzot. Fractal in Hebrew is a gilgul. Fractal in Hebrew in Kabbalah is called a prat, a klal and a prat, a general and a particular. But these are not Western concepts of general and particular. It's a fractal concept. In any event, reality has a hierarchy. And the hierarchy is sacred. And that's why at Havdalah, for example, when a Jew makes the blessing on the Havdalah and says, Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, hamavdil ben kodesh lahol, who has made separation between the holy and the less holy. Relative to holy, it's called profane. But remember, another one of our axioms is absolute relativity. This is crucial. Absolute relativity means you can never say something is absolutely holy and something is absolutely unholy. It doesn't work that way. It's always relative. One man's ceiling is another man's floor. This is so fundamental in Judaism, and if people would just understand this, they would solve so many misinterpretations and abuses of what the Torah and the sages are talking about, particularly when it comes to Jewish-Gentile relations, particularly when it comes to the Torah's understanding of non-Jews and B'nai Noach. Between darkness and light, which is also relative value. Bein Yisrael le'umot ha'olam, between Israel and the nations of the world. And Ubein Shabbat, between the 7th day and the 6 days of the week. These are fractaling each other. You see what's going on there? They're self-replicating in different scales. As holy and to less holy is the light to the darkness is the Shabbat. And this is what confronts the B'nai Noah to understand. Now remember, there's light and darkness. When darkness is in the proper relationship to the light, it's even holier than light, because without it, there's no light. You can't know. There's a principle, another axiom. Ein davar nikar ela mitoch hipucho. A thing cannot be known except through its opposite. You see, and that's why when the sages talk, they've subsumed all these axioms. They already learned them in grammar school. They're already going on to premises built upon this, and hypotheses, and a whole new worlds and discoveries. But if you can see why this causes so much confusion and misunderstanding, if you don't understand these accepted foundation principles that are underlying everything. And so what we have here is, and the other map model is called holography, which means everything contains everything else. And so the term that we use is called holoarchy. What's a holoarchy? Holo from holography, holographic model of the universe, which is basic Torah, Judaism. And a hierarchy is interesting enough. Where does the term hierarchy come from? Okay, from the Greek, higher. You know what that means originally? You're sitting down? Well, maybe you should stand up. It's from holy. Higher means from holy. Arc, okay. A ceiling, a top, like a model in terms of a holarchy, hierarchy. What am I thinking? Jungian. It just escaped me. Archetype, right? The word arc of archetype is the same root in the word hierarchy. Okay, it means levels, but originally referred to different levels of holiness, of divinity, in their whole their God structure and of divinity. But here, what we're doing is and this is a term that was coined by Arthur Kessler. That's very useful to us. Holoarchy.
Holons. No.
Say it again.
Never mind. Holons.
Holons?
Yes.
I don't know that.
Holons.
I don't know that one.
Those are the components of a holarchy. Holarchic system.
It is?
Yeah.
Holons?
Holons. Holons, like protons.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Okay, David just coined a new term. Holons. I get it. Okay. Holons. All right. Holons are the particles that make up holarchy. Okay, good. And the concept of a holarchy is that you still maintain there's a distinction, but the distinctions are nested one inside the other. Imagine I actually have a graphic for this. We didn't even get to the graphic that I wanted to introduce you to. We'll save that graphic about the holoarchical structure for another time. What I do want to just address is somehow it's like you're looking for Waldo in the picture. It's camouflaged in there. You need to find in the Garden of Eden, where are the roots of B'nai Noah hiding. Now, obviously, there was no split yet between Jew and non-Jew, as we know it now. But the essence of the division, it was there, because it's holy, it's eternal. But what was it? In a world where there was no division, and there's only Adam and the Nakash, what more room is there? When you start zooming in and magnifying it, increasing the resolution, you'd be quite surprised what's going to show up. Because there's all kinds of layers and gradations going on in there. You think Adam was just one monolithic structure in the Garden of Eden? He's got 5 levels to his soul there. already. How many layers is our own skin made out of? And that's not even touching our soul yet. Layers within layers within layers. And the whole concept of the hate is that it caused, we began explaining last time, it caused reality to turn inside out. Once again, here's the same Torah kohen. When we ask, where were Bnei Noah in the Garden of Eden? Where were the Jews in the Garden of Eden? And listen, I'm coming here to dispel a common myth, even amongst Jews and even Orthodox Jews. Adam, the big thing is, Adam was universal. Adam wasn't Jewish. Adam wasn't this. That's not true. Adam was Jewish. When you look into the essence of what the secret of Yisrael is, Adam was that. It fell and collapsed, and he's picking up his pieces and putting himself back together again. Abraham was Adam, beginning to resurrect himself from one side, then Isaac from the other side, Jacob from the middle, and it goes on through the tribes and the whole process. Mount Sinai was the refusion, the resurrection of the original Adam. And who? Look, we're asking. We just said truly the term B'nai Noah should be B'nai Adam, right? So you're asking me now, was Adam Adam?
Well, okay, then was B'nai Noah outside or inside?
It wasn't
This
outside.
inside, outside. This is the question.
But he turned inside out as he fell.
They fell, yeah. So B'nai Noah weren't created until outside?
No, they were there. They were there.
Sherlock.
Shylock.
This is exactly, you're touching now on the pivotal point in issue here, and it has to do with inside outside.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
In the second round.
We have 3 minutes left. I'm going to give you 1 hour of okay, since we have this up on the board, I might as well explain it a little bit. What they're looking at is simply the graphic of the 4 doors. In order to understand Torah, both for a Jew and a non-Jew, you got to know where you are, and when you're learning, what part of the learning system are you in? Okay, we're trying to get into the mind of Moses. Okay, that's the inner consciousness of the Torah that lives in every generation. And the mind of Moses is symbolized here by the letter Mem. That's a Mem Sophit, the final Mem, with which the name Moses begins with. Also, the name Mashiach begins. So it's like begins with Moses, and it ends with Messiah. And we'll see that it really begins with Adam. Adam is an acronym for Adam, David, and Moses, or Messiah.
Was Metatron in there then?
And Metatron also, and
Well,
another time. Okay, in order to get into the mind of Moses, which is the mystery of 40, because the gematria of the letter Mem is 40. You have mission, maps, mechanics, and models. Mission is anytime we're studying about the purpose of life and the purpose of the nation of Israel, what Abraham was trying to do, what Noah was trying to do, what took place at Mount Sinai, what the purpose of B'nai Noah is. That's called the mission. You got to know what's the mission. And if you're studying a part of Torah, you have to know, are we studying about the mission? Maps. Maps is simply, we're looking at a map right now. Anytime you pull out a graphic or a chronology to figure out where you are at a certain stage, lived at a particular time, that's called a map. You got to know the difference between the written Torah and the oral Torah. That's the maps. Okay? That's just, you pull out a city map to know where you are. You're on a mission. You know what you're doing. You got to know where you're going, why you're driving. You got to know where to drive. Mechanics. The car breaks down. You got to apply mechanics. The inner mechanics are the axioms. that that some of them we've been touching upon. The axioms. There's nothing here but the light of the Ein Sof, for example. That's axiomatic. That hierarchies are holoarchical. That's an axiom. That there's nothing. That everything breaks down to Hasidim and Gevurot, the dance of the expanding and contracting aspects of God's divinity, straight light and curved light. That's part of the mechanics. And then the models are, when we refer to fractal geometry, modern chaos theory, the Mobius strip model, the flatland, higher dimensional model. These are models that modern science is giving us, and do not think for a second that that is not God who's giving us these models to use. Once again, what scientists do with it, what atheists do with it, okay, that's between them and their maker. As far as we're concerned, this is part of the prophetic prophecy, the process. These maps and models are for us to use to understand, because there's no way, unless you are a Torah scholar and a Kabbalist, to begin to even begin to grasp what the heck is really going on here and what we're in for. But with the help of these powerful maps, models, and metaphors spewing forth from technology and modern science, listen, if you can use a power saw instead of a little hunting knife, okay? So that's the 4 doors to understanding Torah, Kabbalah, and Mosaic consciousness. These are like 4 doors. The Mem, right, has this, it's like just a rectangle. You have to enter into all 4 doors in order to get to the guts, the soul, the mind of Moses. That's what we're after. I don't care whether you're a Jew or you're a non-Jew. We're after the mind of Moses. When you are holding on to Torah, when you fall in love with Torah, when Torah becomes the beginning, the middle, and the end, and Torah is dictating your life, and Torah is life, that is the consciousness of Moses. Himinu b'Moshe, Himinu b'Hashem b'Moshe abdo. They believed in God and in Moses, his servant. To believe in the Torah is to believe in the Torah and Moses, who is all the rabbis. There's no way you can get in there without going to get into the mind of Moses without going through this whole system. Where's this whole system coming from? These doors were created, custom-made by the whole ancient rabbinical tradition. And he had one more. Oops, that one's a little too big. Let's get the smaller one here. Oh, that was also big. What happened to my small one? Let's see. There's another way to do this. Oh, here. Watch this. There's an amazing tool here. Can you guys see this? Is that little camera up there? Oh, first I got to pull up the picture. Let's go to charts. Let's go to, where's our Adamic man? Okay, watch this. See that little tool there? I'm going to put it on top of it and watch what happens. Ah, there we go. Okay. All right.
That's cool.
We're going to conclude just in a moment. My intention was to concentrate this evening more on this graphic. But we hyperlinked. But this is the way of Torah. Anyone who's ever looked at an English translation of the Talmud, what we just did is purely Talmudic. This is how it moves. And you never know where it's going to move. And you always come back. That's why the Gemara comes back to the Mishnah. But sometimes they can go for pages and pages and pages and pages, hyperlinking, and it has nothing to do directly with the original discussion. This is the way of Torah. This is the way the Jewish mind works. This is the way God's mind works. So what we have here is the Adamic timeline. And look at this little tool I got here. A laser pointer. Yeah, see that? All right. I began explaining this last time, and what it says over here is the universe is to exist for 6,000 years, 2,000 of void, 2,000 of Torah, and 2,000 of Mashiach. Can you folks read that? Is that readable to you? Yes, okay. And I also have a highlighter. Where's my highlighter? Watch this. Oops, where's my highlighter? Oh, there it goes. There, see, we can highlight that. Okay. Now, that is a famous statement from the Talmud that reality exists for 6,000 years, broken up into 3 periods of 2,000 years each. And then beneath that we have a statement from Maimonides, the Rambam, from the Guide for the Perplexed, where he says, no, that this universe in its entirety is but one individual being. Now, taking those 2 teachings, and there's many other sources that parallel these teachings, but just taking these 2 from 2 known, accessible sources, and you synthesize them together, well, if all reality is one being, and all reality is supposed to exist for 6,000 years, you superimpose 6,000 years onto the body of a human, and look what you got. You have here 2,000 of the head, 2,000 of the torso, 2,000 of the feet. Now, look at some of the symmetries here. Now, this is my chidush. A chidush refers to a novel creation in Torah based upon the classic sources. Nothing I'm saying here is new, except what I did was I simply overlaid one teaching upon the other teaching, like a double exposure, and this is what appeared. And it's quite amazing, if only to use as a mnemonic device. Some people have a hard time remembering dates. This is a system I created to teach you how to remember the basic who's who and when they lived in Jewish world history. But it's more than that. But look at this. From the beginning of time, the first 2,000 year period, it corresponds to corresponds to when Abraham began his mission. When Abraham was 52 years old, that is when he picked up the souls he made in Haran and started the trek to the Holy Land. That began the whole journey. And that comes out as well known when he was 52 years old. In other words, that is at the end of the first 2,000 year period. And so the whole saga of Abraham is the concluding the first 2,000 years, beginning the next 2,000 years. 6 generations later, Moses in Sinai, and the whole thing corresponds to the heart center. King David, when he lived, corresponds to the navel, which is the middle of the whole structure. And once again, you have Adam, David, Mashiach, which is an acronym for Adam. Now once again, these facts are found in different places. This is brought down from a midrash in the Arizal. And then, what corresponds to the reproductive center of the body of time, the Adamic timeline, is when Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, Rabbi Judah the Prince, in the 2nd century, began to write down for the first time the oral Torah, the Mishnah, which then was added onto that was the Gemara, to making up together the Talmud. And then we go through the period of the sages known as the Tanaim, of the Mishnah, the Amoraim, the Rishonim, the Acharonim, till we get down to the feet. And this is what we introduced to you last time. See that? You are Here, we are in the period known as the Ikvata di Mashiach, the footsteps of the Messiah. We are completing the 6,000-year period. Now, without going into it, of course, the famous conflict, apparent conflict, 2,000 years, what are you talking about? It's millions of years old. It's billions of years old. Without even going into that, and we do have some very unique resolutions that are not the ones taught even in Orthodox schools, but the simple resolution is time as we know it did not begin ticking until when? The fall. Time before the fall, 1 second before the fall, was of a completely different reality. So the 6,000 years begins ticking from the time of the fall.
And the earth was created before the fall.
And the earth was created before the fall. That is correct. But remember, it's all taking place in a four-dimensional. And when I say four-dimension, that's just for beginners. Okay, that's just the pashat. All right, and so we're going to. Our time is up. I wanted to introduce the Adamic timeline. If anyone is interested, I have this available in a hard copy as part of two small books that I have written, a collection of essays explaining many of the concepts that we've been touching upon. If you're interested, contact me. They're $10 each, no problem, and we'll get those out to you. Yes, that is correct. 40 is everywhere. 40 jubilees, and 40 jubilees. Yes, from Adam to today. Exactly. I gotcha. That gives us 6,000 years. Very good. I didn't even know. I never noticed that. Oh, you learned that from Adam today. From Adam to today. Okay. Gotcha. All right. All right. So this is one of the maps when we talk about the maps to understand where we are and who we are. And we'll conclude just with this. This body of Adam contains all humanity. And this goes back to the original question, the original mystery of who are the B'nai Noach in the Garden of Eden before the fall? Who will B'nai Noach be in the future higher dimension? Who will B'nai Noach be in what's known as Olam Haba? And as I told you last time, whatever it is, to keep increasing the resolution, to keep understanding, it is eternal. It is eternal. What it is, how we're going to understand that, and remember, it's coming from a higher dimension. And so we're limited with our tools and our abilities to conceive and conceptualize how can something be different and yet be united and be eternal in its relationship. And the clue is that we already said, think inside, outside. Think how something was on the inside that came on the outside. And here's another way at Torah Kohen to conceptualize this, to work with this. The colors of the rainbow. It's light that's been refracted, right? What does the colors of the rainbow look like inside the light before it's been refracted? If you can see that, when you can see that, you will know the godly secret of B'nai Noach. What do the colors look like that don't have color? What is the sound of one hand clapping? And to help you, just know when you're looking inside, don't look three-dimensional. Look four-dimensional. And when you'll know you're seeing it because it will be seeing you. All right, folks. Are there any questions before we sign off for tonight? All right. Well, thank you all very much for joining us. It's a lot to to digest. we didn't even get to dessert. We'll have to save that for next week. We'll start out with dessert next week. All right, thank you and good night.